I really love life. I love trying to spread joy wherever I go. I think that's always my mission.
Welcome to Bigger Than the Hustle podcast, where I've got another awesome guest for you today. Now, I'm so happy she agreed to be on. She's a British actress. She's worked in India and, in the UK as well. She's spoken word as well. She has her own podcast, so she shares her light in so many ways, amazing ways. So I'm not going to go any further into that. I'm sure she can introduce herself so much better than I can. So, hello, Anisa.
Hi, Bhavik. How are you?
I'm really well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hand over the mic to you so that you can introduce yourself to the listeners, and then we can roll with the conversation from there.
Sure. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Anita. I'm, as Bhavik said, I'm a British Asian actress and podcast host of a podcast called Unplugged With Ani. I am a spoken word artist as well. I do a little bit of writing and a little bit of coaching too. So I like to see myself as being interdisciplinary in a nutshell. And I really love life. I love trying to spread joy wherever I go. I think that's always my mission. So yeah, in a nutshell.
And I know reading some information about you and talking to you. I think you spent some time in India. Is that were you born and raised there, or did you live there and then you move over to the UK?
So actually, no. I was born and raised in London, and I was very influenced by watching Hindi feature films growing up, and not that the agenda was to necessarily go out there. I think when I decided that I really wanted to be an actress around 12, 13 years old, I just knew that I wanted to act and perform. I didn't really have a greater understanding of where that was going to be or what it was going to look like. But an opportunity arose. I tested for something in London for a feature film, and I got flown out there for a look test, and that kind of opened another door for me, another avenue, which I then decided to explore. And hence India kind of came onto the platter, if you like. So then I sort of was more back and forth. But yes, then I spent an ample amount of time out there in India working.
Now, when you chose acting as a career path or something that made you happy, where did that energy come from? Is there something in your background, parentally, or something that drove you or energized you in this field?
Yeah, it's really interesting because no, actually, I didn't have anybody else in the family who was sort of artistic or creative in that way. And I think at the same time, I'm very grateful to my parents that I wasn't sort of restricted in any way or just told that you had to do one thing. So I think I approached schooling very openly as well. And I just really enjoyed drama. I was a really self-conscious child, and I think I struggled with self-confidence a lot. But when I was on the stage or I was told to perform, to me in my mind, it was that I don't have to be Anisa now, that my guard can go down and I don't have to worry about how I'm looking or what I'm doing. I can just be something else. And I think I found an escape in that and a joy in that. And I think, I mean, it was a difficult one because I think till date, my dad still struggles with this idea of me having picked the arts as a career. That wasn't expected, even though it wasn't really said at a young age. I still somehow feel like you need to do what really makes you happy, and this was something which really did make me happy. So yeah.
Now it's interesting because you being a part of the Indian culture. My dad is from India, my mom's from Africa. Now two things which are huge in our culture: movies and cricket, right?
Yeah.
So you got the two sides. So my dad and my mom love both. Now, we see the veneer of Bollywood. So you see the movies, you see the glam, the glitz, etc. Can you give us a little bit of an insight to behind the curtain, to the things that we don't know about that you found quite interesting, or something that you know, that's not so glamorous that goes on behind the scenes when you are part of the Bollywood scene, if you say?
Mm, I mean, I think it's with whether it's Hollywood or the British TV and film or Bollywood. I think acting is considered, directing, producing. There is a certain glamour attached to the entertainment industry, singing, whatever it is. The reality is very different. You know, it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and hard work. There's a lot of rehearsal time. There's a lot of pressure to there's not kind of a differentiation between your personal life and work life. A lot of the time you do take your work home. As an actor, you know, you need to spend time learning lines, you need to do all these extra things, extra preparation, which does cut into your private time and your private life. So I don't think it really is glamorous from any angle. I think that's just the byproduct or the domino effect of maybe achieving a certain amount of success or being attached to certain big projects, which is wonderful. And there's like perks, you know, you might get to stay at some nice hotels and get to shoot in different countries, and that's all wonderful. But at the end of the day, it is a lot of work that people don't see, you know, days where you might not be feeling your best and in front of the camera, that, you know, you it's your job to cover that up. So I think it definitely, I definitely wouldn't call it glamorous.
And recently, over the last year or two, it's come under the spotlight a lot, especially Hollywood, in terms of gender roles, in terms of females within that culture of Hollywood, because it seemed to be quite a male-oriented, misogynistic sort of culture at some points.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad that it's been highlighted. I'm so glad that things are slowly changing. Obviously, change takes time, and for it to be lasting change, it has to take time. But if there are certain aspects of that community or career choice, which now, if anyone new is going into it, I know it would be completely different if someone was in it 20 years ago, and anyone would tell you that with any career, you know, 20 years ago it was this, and now it's completely different. If someone was looking to get into acting, performing, whatever format that be, whether it be on screen, whether that be on stage, theatre, etc., what advice would you give to them to so they understand what's involved and what needs to happen for them to create some form of success?
Well, yeah, one thing would definitely be to not look at the result as a means of sort of identifying it as something that you want to do as a profession. I feel like you have to love the process. And I really mean that because, you know, many actors achieve success very late in life, and you just think, oh my goodness, that is tragic. But it actually, you know, it comes across as being an overnight success, and it never is. It's a lot of work on a daily basis. And if you're not prepared to do that work, I don't think it's the profession that you should choose, because the glamour part of it is very, very small. I would say that is 1 or 2% of the big picture. So I think you have to really love it. You really do have to be passionate about the process, not the result. And because it's not about awards and accolades, you know, that, like I said, that's just all a byproduct. So that's definitely one thing. And I would say that don't underestimate learning and training, because even though you might have achieved a lot and be the best, there's nothing quite beats going back to that playground and having that freedom and space to just keep learning, whether it's doing acting classes or working on accents or working with a diction coach or whatever it is. I feel like that is something a performer should keep doing. I feel like the day you think that you know everything, you should probably stop, because no one really knows everything, every experience is different as well. So that's definitely what I would say.
I think I quite resonate with you, because I've always said always want to be the student. I never want to be the teacher. Because as
Yeah.
a student, you're always learning, aren't you? But as a teacher, you're just outputting as opposed to inputting. So, fully agree with that. Now, if the journey of how you've picked up pockets of things that make you happy. So, you're acting, spoken word. So can we go a bit into the spoken word now? First of all, which way do you express yourself in spoken word, and what does that give you personally when you're in that sort of space?
Yeah, the spoken word thing is really funny, because it's just like in the last couple of years, honestly, I would say that poetry is something that I don't know where it came from. Writing, actually, from a very young age, school competitions, and just and I'm surprised somewhere I didn't go into writing, because I've done a lot of it, but it wasn't for a particular cause or a particular purpose as such. It was for myself. I would always just write down my thoughts, and I just love words. I have this, I don't know, this affiliation with words. I'm a bit of a quote addict. I hold on to things people say. I think my love language is words of affirmation, so words is just like something I absolutely love. So I started writing, and then poetry was something I'd always write. And I think it's because I've struggled with being able to express myself. And I think that's a confidence thing. I've struggled with telling people to their face how I feel about things. And so, whether it was feeling, I remember, I personally didn't endure major bullying, but I do remember one girl who I felt like I was being attacked for no reason at one point in school. And I just remember that phase of not really knowing how to deal with those emotions, but I could put pen to paper and put it down, even if it was for myself. And there was some kind of relief in that, in processing that. So poetry just became this thing. I kept writing. And in the last couple of years, I just wondered what that would look like if I was to say it out loud. I think I'm definitely a more empowered version as I grow older. I have a lot more confidence in myself and who I am and in my skin, which I never had as a child. And I almost feel like I wish I had that, but it's never too late. So I think the spoken word has come from the space of me embracing who I am, and also having confidence to say it out loud, even if it might not sound right. Going back to something you said at the beginning of just, doing things for you, doing what's right for you, not really caring what anyone else thinks.
I think it's so important when you reach a point, because I see it like a hill. So as you're going uphill, you're learning about yourself. So you're learning what makes you happy, what doesn't make you happy. You get sort of thrown off paths. People pull you in different directions. You get drawn to certain things. You get pushed away from certain things. And then from all this swaying, there comes a steadiness. And that steadiness is saying, actually, I like this and I don't like this. I get on with this and I don't get on with this. I enjoy this and I don't enjoy this. And I'm now happy enough to say, I choose this and I choose you, or I don't choose you. And certain things that don't serve me anymore, I can let them go. Certain things that do serve me, I can take more of that on. And I'm comfortable in this little space that I've created for myself. And I know I feel strong in this space. And when I come from this space, I therefore project out into the world the way I would like to be seen, would like to be, the filter is taken off. I don't have a mask anymore. This is me. And we're so busy as we're growing up wearing different masks, right? Trying to fit in, trying to, be something to someone else, and looking at everyone else rather than looking at ourselves. Looking inward. I think as we get older, we start looking inward. And certain times, for me, for sure, there have been times when it's been quite dark, it's been quite deep and low. And those times have created the best version of me in terms of the way I've come out of that and chosen life and chosen me. Mm-hmm. Have there been any struggles in your life that you look back now, at the time they were tough, but you look back and say, actually, that was probably one of the best things that happened because this happened? Is there anything you could share with us?
I mean, it's everything. I think about this all the time, actually, and I think that's a great question. I think about it literally maybe even a week ago, and it sounds funny, but I think about a time where I feel like we're evolving so fast, we don't give ourselves enough credit, and the focus is always on, don't look back, just look ahead. But actually, if you don't look back, you don't remember how far you've come. You don't remember what you've been through. And I mean, one time for sure, to give an example, would definitely be when I went out to India, and I went out for a particular film, was selected for it, started doing workshops for it. It was my first experience out there, and then in the middle of the workshop to be told that actually we're going with a different decision now. We're changing, we're changing the idea we had in our head, and we're going in a different direction. And then they sort of recast things. That was such a heartbreaking moment for me, because I was suddenly in a different country, which wasn't my own, and thrust into this situation. And then within a few months, I luckily got this Disney show, and life took a different kind of turn. But then in the middle of that, I got typhoid, and I found myself in hospital again in a country which, I didn't know many people, and my friends were my cast members. And I think about now, and I think about how the hell did I go out to a different country and learn a different language and, just everything. How did I do it? Because then it makes you feel that, if it happened now, you wouldn't know what to do. And that's the funny thing about life. I feel like you can never really be prepared for the heartbreak and the trials and the obstacles that come your way. You can try and be prepared, but nothing quite prepares you for those moments. And I think we all have, human resilience is just incredible. What one finds themselves doing in the midst of all of that. So that would be one example, but I think there's many examples of just feeling like this is the end. When we all go through heartbreak, and it's just like, I'm the only one in the world going through this. Why is this happening to me? Yeah.
And we talk about the word struggle. So there seems to be such a negative connotation to the word struggle, because it seems like it's hard and it's friction, and there's effort. But for me, it seems that struggle seems to give me some kind of energy and some kind of purpose and some kind of grounding to say, sometimes things are going to be tough. Let them be tough, because once you let them be tough, you come out the other side and something has happened. So some changes happen, generally for the better, because you went through that. And when people, like, I have two children, so my daughter's 14 and my son is 10. And right now, they not so much my son, my daughter's going through somewhat of a struggle with this lockdown and the social disconnection. And I do feel for them, for that generation, because it is tough right now, not in a physical sense, but in a mental sense, right? And sometimes, you try and make it easier, but then sometimes I think, actually, no, let them try and solve it. Let them try and work through it, because I'm not always going to be there to hold their hand and lift them up. And I don't want to be, because I've learned so much about myself just going through the shit and going through, the pain and coming out the other side, because it allows you to access a part of your brain which you didn't access before. If everything's comfortable, it's like they say, more champions have been built from pain than from comfort. And it's so true. It's only when you really are in a struggle that you, first of all, you find out about yourself and what you're capable of, but then also you find out then who really is supporting you and who really is around you and who has your back and who is your team. But thirdly is you realize that what's important to you, and you let go of the shit that's not important to you, and you only hold the stuff that is. Mm-hmm. And those three things come out of struggle. So for me, when someone says that, I'm like, just go through it. Let yourself go through it, but just accept it. And only when you go through that darkness, it's, in the Western culture, I find that it almost seems like, let's just get through it. Let's just get to the other side. And it's like grief and pain and things like this. But in the Eastern culture, it seems more open, as in, this is just a part of process of being human. Part of being human, being, don't try and get rid of the grief, learn from it. Just go through it slowly and don't try and come out the other side, but understand what's happening inside you. So when you come out the other side, there's learning. It's not forgotten, and there's something that's happened because of that. And it's been so important, I think, just knowing that, and knowing that you are strong enough. You know, like you said, when you try and prepare too much, you don't know how you can deal with it until you're in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. Then when you come out the other side, you're like, I've done it once, I can do that again. I don't fear that anymore. Do you have anything in terms of you as a person? What makes you the happiest? Or what, doing something or being around something or achieving something? Why do you think your happiness comes from as an individual?
Well, yeah, another, great question to think about. I think it's important to know that, actually. And I think just learning about myself, like I've always been fascinated with psychology and sociology, and then hence, the coaching thing kind of happened as well, where I, especially in this last year, I think I've delved in deeper to find out about myself and really what makes me happy. And I think there's something I've accepted, is that for me personally, happiness is attached to doing. It is attached to feeling productive. It is attached to, being able to do what I love, like acting, for sure. I can't deny that. It's not necessarily a good thing all the time, because when that's taken away and when you can't do that, you are left feeling, I'm not sure if I'm worthy, or, you're left feeling less confident about yourself because your happiness is derived from something external. But one thing that has helped me is happiness comes from my faith being a foundation as well, and my spiritual beliefs. And I know that is something which can't be taken away. That is something which doesn't leave me shaken. That doesn't change. And I think that security in finding something for yourself that doesn't change is always internal rather than external. So I try to find happiness in small things, like when I can see the stars in the sky. And when it snowed the other day, I just felt this childlike joy, considering that we're, sort of stuck in four walls at the moment. There was just something so magical about that. I think being able to, I wish I could do it even more. Gratitude is a huge thing for me, but I know that I try to see the good every day, even the small things, even just, whether it's like coming off this podcast afterwards and just feeling like that was a really great conversation I had today. These small things, they matter, and they give you perspective, I guess.
And I find it's the small things that create the big things. So when you have a good foundation of things that you, like you said, you're productive and you do, but you also have to remember to be rather than just do. I understand. It's been an exercise for me where I found it quite alien to stop being productive. And what I mean by that is I've worked for a long time. I've had my own business for over 20 years, so I've never switched off. I found it hard to switch off. And only over the last 2 years have I stopped working weekends, because I used to work weekends as well. And when I first did that, so consider it's 18 years I worked weekends, and then when I say weekend, Saturday, obviously Sunday off. And then, so I'd work 6 days. So when I then decided 2 years ago that I'm actually going to stop working Wednesdays and I'm going to stop working Saturdays, I'm going to only work 4 days, and I've been blessed that the universe has allowed me to take that time off and still have a flourishing, financially we don't have to worry. Now, what's been interesting was that the first 6 months was alien, as in I found it so hard. It was like I don't know what to do with myself. I was so used to just always be, whether that be good, whether that be bad, whatever stance you want to put on that. I found working was my go-to because I felt productive because I was doing something. And then not working, I almost felt like I'm not doing anything of production. And what I realized is that it's first of all a muscle you need to build in your own brain, as in that thing about just stopping. And not believing that you're not being productive, because you need that time to take a step back and replenish and recharge for the next time you go. But secondly is when I gave myself space to just be and actually say, I'm just going to watch a bit of TV. I had this thing about TV. I never watched TV, and then I watch a box set now and then. I don't mind spending time doing that, because I'd always had a negative connotation to say, oh, that's unproductive time. You're not doing anything of purpose. You're not being any use. And I thought, if I just do those things that make me happy, just take a bit of time, I'll switch off, I come back stronger. And I now know that I'm way more productive in 4 days than I ever was in 6 days. And I'm so much happier. And if I'm happier, all the people around me are happier. My kids are happy, my wife, my parents, my friends, my community, everyone is happy just because I've made a choice to serve myself. And going back to, like you were saying, just little things. Like this year, last year I started this thing on Wednesday evenings where I contact someone that's had a part in my upbringing. So like my uncles, my cousins, my friends, and I say to them, let's go for a walk. So I'll pick one person, and in the evening we'll just go for a walk. We'll meet up and we'll go for a walk, an hour or two, and just to talk, just to acknowledge that we're still around, to acknowledge that we are still human. We still need that ability to talk rather than just sending a message and letting go. And I wanted to show, with the most valuable resource I have, which is my time, I wanted to give that to that person to say thank you. Thank you for always being here for me. Thank you for raising me. A little bit of you is in me. And that's why I can do what I can do. And I just wanted to acknowledge them by saying, I'm taking time out of my own life, busy, kids, life, work, business, But they can always be an excuse, right? They can always be an excuse. You can always say, I haven't got time. But you make time. If it's important, you make time, right? So what kind of things are you not making time for your life right now? What kind of things do you still need to do to grow as a person?
Wow. Well, again, I completely relate to that. I think sometimes switching off for me, although I would say I've been able to do better with that during lockdown. Like you said, like for me as well, like with TV, I'm just like, no, it's something I did not want to do. But actually, I've started enjoying kind of, because I get up quite early, I've enjoyed kind of scheduling my days a little bit better to make sure I am productive in the day. I do what I need to do, but then I definitely have a couple of hours in my evening just to kind of not do work, whether it's just sit and play a game with the family, or just have a meal together, or whether it's just me by myself watching something that I enjoy. I've started doing more of that for sure. I think, yeah, just trying to also connect with people a lot more during lockdown. And I'm more a text person. I'm really guilty of being more a text person than sort of picking up the phone and having the conversation. I started doing voice notes because I feel like it's more personalized. But it's just convenient, and you don't have to bother anyone. You don't have to let them bother you or necessarily take too much of your time. So it's a little bit of a selfish thing as well, I think. And I think that cuts into me being a bit of a control freak. But trying to do these little things which make me switch off from that constant. And yeah, just trying to enjoy the pause and the waiting, as frustrating as that can be a lot of the time. So try.
And what do you think inspires you most today?
I think I'm always inspired by people's resilience and their ability to just keep going. It just makes me extremely happy seeing others succeed when at something that they've just always wanted to do. I think because I can connect to that, perseverance. I just think perseverance, there's beauty in perseverance. I don't know what it is, but it's just so amazing to me that people can find themselves in these spaces where their whole world has crumbled and they might feel like a failure, but then 2-3 years after, they're just completely transformed. So that inspires me. And also just people being so selfless, wanting to really make a true difference in the world and really putting themselves aside to contribute to a bigger cause. I find that really inspiring.
And is there anything that you're proud of within yourself that no one knows about?
The proud question always gets me. I think it's because I'm my biggest critic. So for me to say that I'm proud is really hard. And I think I've been asked this recently by a friend, and I found myself sort of stumped. There are things that I'm proud of, yes, but I think that's where I personally struggle. I want to still look ahead at what is left to achieve, what Anita still needs to do in order to feel proud, which isn't a good thing, honestly. But I am proud of the person I am today. I feel like a more confident, empowered version of myself, and I am proud of that journey, because it's taken a lot to get to this point of just feeling more comfortable in my skin, of not being so afraid, of treading less on eggshells, of owning my shit, and realizing that I'm not perfect and it's okay, because I think so much of that struggle has come from wanting to be somebody else's idea of perfect. So I am proud of that.
We talk a lot today, and rightly so, about mental health. So whether that be anxiety, whether that be depression, whether that be just bouts of low, whether that be the other way as well, where you have extreme highs and exhilarations, etc. Now, is that I can have moments of time where I'm quite anxious. I'm quite an anxious person. I overthink things and I think quite deeply about things, and maybe not to my own benefit, it's more to my detriment. I have this thing, I don't even know what it's called, but where I have to try and stay on top of everything. And if I have a to-do list, I want to get it all done, else it sits in my head and festers. Why didn't I do it? Why didn't I get it done? And I don't know if there's a thing called that, but I definitely have it, whatever it is. And if I say, for example, like I finish in the kitchen, I want to clear up. And if only when I've cleared up can I move on to the next thing. So if I'm not cleared up, I find it hard to move on. And I don't even know what it's called, so I'm not even going to try and explain.
I think it's just a control thing. I can relate to that.
So for me, it's been they're the things that I get quite anxious about, and I try and let go of, because I know in the grand scheme of things, it's not important. It really doesn't matter. I know how many times I'm trying to retrain my brain to say it really doesn't matter if you know you don't do this and things are fine. Now that's more on the humorous side, because I know that's about me and I'm trying to work on that. But I know people do suffer quite heavily with bouts of depression, about anxiety, and I know it's real. I've been through that and I know it's tough. And when the only energy that you're working with is the same energy that's put you in that position, which is in your own head, there's very little movement that's going to happen, because all you're doing is sitting in your own head, right? Now, during these times of lockdown, I know there's a lot of suffering, especially in younger people. What things do you do to manage your own mental health and self-love, to make sure that you continue to come out and be strong and try to take life in a way where it's like, you know, there's going to be lows and you know there's going to be ups, but that's just the way it is? What kind of things do you do? Little things, if there's any daily things or any weekly things that help you, that may help other people?
I mean, the very consistent thing for me is fitness. It has been for many, many years. I would say for the last 10 years. It's a non-negotiable. I schedule it like I would a meeting. I have to move. It's important it's not just because of the exterior consequence to doing that. It's not just about looking a certain way. It's honestly about the way it makes me feel. I feel just so much healthier. Everything is better. My sleep is better. My health overall is better because of it. It's a stress buster for me. It's the time that I have where I'm not on my phone, where I can just put a podcast on or music on, or, you know, just actually unwind, and be challenged at the same time, because I weight train, and, you know, that there is a certain challenge involved in that. But I definitely think movement is hugely underestimated. It is a free drug, just like, you know, water is. And sometimes we take it for granted. So movement is definitely the consistent thing. Other than that, I would say from day to day it varies. I can definitely see wonderful benefits from meditation. It's something I do on and off. It helps me go to sleep, especially days where I find myself overthinking and I just really need to like shut my brain off at night. I definitely recommend that. And music is so therapeutic. I just, you know, I love music any time of the day. I think I was hugely influenced as a child because my mum just loves music. There was always music on in the house. So I find music very, very helpful as well. And as well in this kind of situation, in terms of the pandemic, I would say connection, even though it might not be in person, but just reaching out to a friend that you trust, that you're able to vent to. And if you really don't have that person in your life, I cannot recommend like therapy enough, or coaching, or, you know, just being able to speak to someone. They don't have to know you, but that support can really, really help you. And I've seen it just help so many people around me. So yeah, those are a few things.
The movement and meditation, fully 100% behind you on that. During the times when I've been through my darkest moments, I started running. First it was sort of a walk and a jog, and then a walk and a jog, and then it slowly turned into jog, and it turned to walk. I was very not physically fit at all, to a point where now I was supposed to be doing the New York Marathon last year, but that obviously got cancelled, and I'm aiming for this year to do it. I've never run over half a marathon, so I'm in training and I'm happy. But like you said, it just all the chemicals go into balance after a run for me. Everything just seems stable, and like you said, sleeping better, my system just works better, I think better, and I don't know how to explain it all, but I just know that for me the chemicals all just are in sync, and I'm the best version of myself, and therefore movement 100%, and meditation again. So many people talk about meditation in the morning. Mine is evening for sure. 10 minutes before
Yeah,
bed, sleep like a,
yeah.
and then I wake up like I've slept, as opposed to, I
Mm,
know when times when I've not meditated, I woke and I still feel quite tired.
groggy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Whereas when I've meditated 10 minutes before I go to sleep and wake up feeling like I've had a good sleep. Like you said,
Mm,
like yourself, I'm an early riser, so at 5 o'clock I'm up and I'm getting on with things. Um, and that's my time as well. Do you know when you find a time? So my time is 5 to 7 in the morning where I get up. I make both our lunches in terms of sort of salads, proteins, etc. And then I write. So I'm writing a book at the moment, just
amazing.
about things that I've learned and just the little things that I want to sit down and spend my time doing because that makes me happy. And because no one else is awake at that time, there's no pings and no dings, and I don't switch my phone on till I leave the house nowadays. So only after 10 o'clock because that's my time. I don't want to be
Right.
drawn into emails and WhatsApp and Signal and whatever else comes in. I just want that to be my time for me to be strong. So when I enter the world, after I leave the door to get into my car or my van or whatever it is, I'm the strongest. I've done my exercise. I've done my lunch. I've done my reading. I've done the things that make me happy. I've walked my boy to school. I've talked to my wife. I've read and I've listened. These are the things that make me strong. And unless I put them front and foremost, the rest of the day, no matter what happens, I'll always be all right. I'll come home and it might be a tough day, but I know I'll be all right because I've looked after myself. And I think we all need to do that more, right? We all
Yeah.
find what makes us happy. Like playing the piano makes me happy. I learn and I play. And it's this. And never see it as selfish. I know, especially females, especially my wife as well. She sees things doing. Sometimes she sees things doing for herself as selfish. She's not spending time look after the kids or look after the house or look after us, or she has her own business looking after that. And I'm like, you just need to do things that make you happy. Go and spend some time with your friends, go on holiday with someone, or do something, but just look at yourself because when you start looking at yourself, then stuff can happen and stuff can be productive for you. So,
Yeah.
um, and I like
True.
that. And I've seen it in past generation with mom and stuff. Always being the homemaker, always looking after. But they don't look after themselves, and I don't want that to happen anymore. I want them to put themselves forward as well. Because
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think that is a generational thing, and it's something that we learn at a young age from our caregivers. So it's so I think education is so important to be the main contributing factor to changing that,
mm,
to
mm,
changing that perspective and not seeing self-care as selfish.
mm.
Sure,
And it's the action behind education, isn't it? There's no point having the knowledge if we're not going to use it to be productive, right?
absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So at this juncture, Anisa, I'd just like to say thank you. Thank you for coming on and being your truth. Thank you for turning up in the world you do. I love the way you present yourself, and you're very truthful. You're very creative, and the way you show up in the world because I know that's truth. That's your you, and it's taken time for you to get here, like you've said. But
Mm.
there's so much more to go, Anisa. There's so much more time ahead. You know that. And there's so many more fun things to do and surround ourselves with. If we come from an authentic place of truth, of what makes you happy, then the future is already looking bright. I know we'll have ups and downs, but it'll be fine. I know we'll all be okay. So just before we end, there's a couple more questions I'd like to ask you to
Sure.
get a little bit more insight into you and the way you think so the listeners can understand a little bit more about you. Now, we've reached the end of your life. You're 100 years in the future right now, and you've done everything you want to do. You've done all the acting, the speaking, and you've made an impact on people's lives. And you've been inspiration and you've looked after yourself as well. So, we've now reached the last moments of your life where you don't have enough energy to speak, but you have a pen and a paper and you have enough energy to write 3 words. Now, these 3 words have helped you in your life and they've resonated with you, and by sharing them, you hope that it can help other people in their life. What would those 3 words be for you and why?
Um, well, faith and hope, I kind of see as one.
Mm-hmm.
The reason being is I think hope is is a word which I resonated with from a very young age. I remember writing a little autobiography. Well, it was autobiography, which is funny in essence because I was only 12. But at that time, we had a task to write it in school, and I titled mine Hope. And I think hope and faith is big because for me, it's the belief in the unseen. It's that whole thing about jumping before the net appears. And I think we need that in life. And I've always been an advocate of that. So I kind of consider that one. Another one would be forgiveness, because I feel that at the end of the day, when we're always looking back, we need to be able to forgive ourselves, forgive the old version of ourselves who didn't know any better and did maybe make mistakes and did have to endure pain or have to suffer to a certain degree, maybe because of other people's actions. But if we forgive ourselves for getting into that situation, or, just allowing somebody else to take something from us, I think we leave more empowered, because you're your own best friend. And I think biggest enemy at times, so forgiveness. And the third one, I guess, would be resilience. And that's because I think that's what life is about. It's always, like I said before, obstacles are always going to come. It's really what you do in those moments when they come.
Perfect. And when you were saying those, I could feel they were coming from inside you, because they are your truth. From our conversation, from our short time together, I can see they're important to you. And if you know that now, then that's a good foundation of thinking, and it's a good foundation of thought, because that's what it's about. We are what we think, and we create our lives from our thoughts. Mm-hmm. Now, the final question is, this podcast is called Bigger Than the Hustle, and right now you're bigger than the world. So you're connected, I found a mic, and you're connected to 7.58 billion people on this planet. They're all awake, they're all conscious, they're all listening. There's no language barrier, and they can all understand what you're saying.
Mm.
I'm going to give you this mic for 30 seconds. What would your message be to the world?
That life is about taking the little, however much you have, and doing the best you can with it. And I would say, leave everything on the dance floor being your life. You don't get to take anything with you. So use everything you have and just be proud of who you are, and be the best that you can be, not anyone else but you. And that's enough. You are enough.
And that's so important. To talk to my son about that, being enough. And I said, you are not the things you accumulate. You are not the people around you. You're not those things. You are you. Mm-hmm. And be happy being you, and be comfortable being you. He's only 10 years old. He probably just thought he was getting big. But I just, my wife says the same thing to him as well. Always, you are always you, no matter what anyone says. So at that junction, Anisa, I'd like to thank you again. Just before we go, is there anything else you'd like to say before we go?
No, I think you've been really thorough. They were really interesting questions. I really enjoyed this conversation with you, and I think conversations which get you to think are just always, at least for me, it's always welcomed. It's always an experience. So I'm grateful for this opportunity to share with your audience.
Not at all. And thank you again for giving up your most precious resource, which is your time, to be here today. And I know it nearly didn't happen, and I'm so glad you did make it happen. And like I said, I'm grateful that you've been able to share. You've been able to use your wisdom and your knowledge to try and give some information that may help some people make better decisions in their life, which then obviously leads to a better life. So thank you again. So this podcast was called Bigger Than the Hustle, and I was your host, Bhavik Patel. Just a few thoughts to leave you with. Big energy leads to big thoughts. Big thoughts lead to big ideas. Big ideas lead to big actions. And big actions lead to a big life. to keep thinking big. Until next week, goodbye.
If you think about it enough and you want it enough, you will make it happen. And there will be steps and it will be hard to get there,